Imagine, you're lying there stiff as a board. Your fingers and your toes aren't movable. You can't blink. In fact, you can't even breathe. All of your senses are gone. You're not sleeping. You're not acting. You're dead. To most people, this sounds like a horrible state to be in. But for human cadavers, their adventure has just begun. Dead bodies may seem pretty useless to some people, but they're actually very beneficial. As a medical student, I've recently got to work with human cadavers and learn about what they can do and the advances in technology that they've actually made. In this speech, I'm going to teach you more about human cadavers by telling you a brief history, what they can be used for, and why they're important. So, dead bodies weren't always a common thing, and they were actually frowned upon for the use of medical experiments or advances in technology. When reading the book Stiff, written by Mary Roach in 2003, I learned that many of the first human cadavers were actually executed criminals, and this was around the time of 1832. Medical students would use these cadavers for an insight of the body and how it worked. Though this worked for a while, the bodies were running out and the students obviously wanted more. This led to the stealing of bodies and anatomy teachers actually bringing in their dead relatives to class for students to work on. Roach mentions in her book that people were actually getting paid to body snatch and steal bodies from graveyards. It wasn't until later in history that cadavers were actually used in science and people were allowed to donate their bodies like they can in today's society. These days, most people look at death as going 6 feet under the ground in a big wooden box with no purpose anymore. I know that's how I used to look at life until I found out the things that human cadavers can be used for. By looking at this picture of crash test dummies, you can see that they look a lot like human bodies. They're shaped like us and everything. But if you look closely, you can notice that they're not exactly like us. Their arms are stiff, their heads are tilted back, and they're sitting in an awkward position. How often are we going to get in a car crash sitting exactly like that? We're probably not. But by using a dead human body, we can see exactly what's going to happen to us if we are in a certain position in a crash. Most people know you can donate your body to science for a bunch of college kids to dissect and look at, but most people don't actually know that cadavers are used as crash test dummies. They're used in the armies. They're used for morticians to actually study and practice on for the future. They're used for forensic scientists to help solve murders. When reading an article written by Elizabeth Cohen, posted by CNN.com on October 8, 2010, I learned that there are multiple things you can do with your body after you're dead. Cohen states, "You probably think you're pretty charitable. Perhaps you donate money to the needy or ill. You give away your old clothes, or you volunteer your child's school, or in holiday gift drives in December. But you may be missing something. As you are charitable in life, you're also charitable in death." In the rest of the article, she gives you ideas of what you could potentially do with your body after death. By donating your body and deciding what you're going to do before that last moment and your last breath comes, you could potentially be saving a life as well as multiple lives. Human bodies are pretty simple, right? Like, we're easy to understand. Wrong. There's so many things going on inside of you right now that we wouldn't even know about if it wasn't for the use of human cadavers. Look at this skull, for example. You can see the sutures and the foramen. Without being able to study a real body, we would have never known stuff like this and have the information on the body that we do today. When looking at National Geographic, an article written by Matt McCall, published on July 29, 2016, talks about the importance of donating your body. McCall states, "Cadavers lead all sorts of interesting lives. They allow doctors to practice on patients who don't feel pain, help surgeons develop new techniques without risking lives, dentists dissect their heads and torsos, and physical therapists study their muscular systems. These are just a few of the important things that human cadavers can be used for. Overall, dead bodies have more potential than may be seen at first glance. When looking at a history of the human body, looking at a history of cadavers, the things they can be used for, and why they are important, it's easy to see that we are not pointless when we are dead. A quote by Kurt Cobain states, "Rather be dead than cool." But as you can see from this speech, we're pretty cool when we're dead. I would highly recommend looking into donating your body. I know I'm sure going to.